Hi, I'm Beth from Sew Country, and today I'm going to be showing you how to sew up this wallet. This is the bifold wallet, and I'm going to have a link to the pattern in the description below. This is my favorite wallet to sew, and so anytime I get an order for a wallet, this is the one I go to. The reason why I like this wallet so much is it is quick, easy, and it always gives me consistent good results. It is very slim, so you don't have a lot of bulky seams you have to go over. I do sew on a domestic machine, so this is very domestic friendly. The pattern is only $7, and I highly recommend it because your first one you make, you can give it as a gift or sell it and recoup your cost that way. So let's talk about the pattern just a little bit. Then I'm going to show you what you need to have cut out, and I'm not going to give the descriptions of the measurements, but just show you the pieces, and then we're going to go through it. I'm going to go through the wallet construction pretty quickly, but at the end of the video I'm going to take a lot of time to show you the bonding. Bonding is one of my favorite ways to finish a bag with the proper bonding techniques, and so I'm going to take the time to show that so that you can feel comfortable and get nice binding on any bag you sew. Let's look at this. We have our flap on the outside with a snap. I am going to use a cam snap. We have our exterior, and we have bonding around the entire wallet. When we open it up, we have our credit card slots. They go in this way. You could do it the other way. It's just this is the way that's easiest to finish the bag. Slip pocket, a zipper pocket at the bottom, another slip pocket, binding, and another interior piece. This is all it is to this wallet. It's super great, simple construction, and I love it. Okay, so the pieces we need, very easy to cut out. Let's start with our main panel pieces. We have two of these. We have an exterior, and for today I'm using a vinyl. You can use a vinyl, you can use a cork, you can use cloth, anything you want. The only thing that will make a difference is that where I'm using a vinyl, I'm not going to put any interfacing on this. I could add a fusible fleece if I wanted to, but I'm not going to. If I was using cotton for my exterior piece, I would put fleece on that one. So one exterior piece, one lining piece. The lining, I'm using a cotton, and I am using an interfacing. I always use Pixie Fuse. That's the only interfacing I use, so it does have that interfaced on it. That's my two pieces, exterior and lining. Let's put that aside. Then we have our flap. Two pieces of the flap. She gives you several different choices for flap designs. I think maybe 4 or 5. So this is the one I like the best, so this is the one I use. You can choose whichever one you want. I did add 2 layers. I had a layer of Pixie Fuse Light here, layer of Pixie Fuse Light here, and then I also added a piece of Pixie Fuse Heavy. I'm going to link the description for Pixie Fuse down below. It's just my favorite interfacing, but you can use SF101 and Decaville Light too. You can use whatever you want for the flap. You could use a cork or a vinyl. I just chose to use 2 pieces of cotton. I'm going to go ahead and clip these right sides together because that's the way I'll sew them. We're also going to need 2 pieces to make up our zipper pocket. So the way these work is she gives you the measurements for the zipper pocket bottom, and when you get that, you can use cotton and interface it. When you get your zipper pocket bottom cut out, you're simply going to fold it wrong sides together, and she'll tell you the measurements it will be once you fold it wrong sides together to make sure you have it oriented correctly. The same thing for your zipper pocket top. You have that piece cut out like that, interface on the back, and then you fold it together wrong sides together. The way this is going to work, just so you understand, is it'll end up being just like this when your construction is done, and it'll be on the bottom of your lining. Super simple. You need your zipper with a zipper pull. You can use a number 3. I'm going to use a number 5, but you can use whichever one you want. Your credit card slots. She gives you the measurements for the full piece I went ahead and folded mine, but I will explain that whenever we get to this step. The only other thing you need to cut out is your binding. Now, I do my binding the same with every bag I make, no matter what the pattern tells me to do. I always do the same. Fortunately for this pattern, she's the one who taught me how to do this. So this binding method I use is described in her pattern, and it is what I do from now on with any bag I buy, no matter what they say. I use her technique. I'm going to show you that in depth when we get to that step. The first thing we're going to do now, though, is we are going to sew right sides together our flat pieces. I'm not going to waste your time with showing you all these steps. You know, we already know how to sew something right sides together. We're going to use 1/4 of an inch seam allowance and go around the bottoms. We're going to leave this top unsewn, and then we're going to flip it, turn it right sides out, and top stitch around the flap. If you want, with this pattern, lots of times what I do is I wait to the very end to insert my flap so that I can make sure I get it the way I want. That is what I'm going to do today. Say I use some bulky materials, I want to make sure that the flap sits nicely, so I'm not going to install my snap to the very end. Okay, so let me get my flap made, and then I will come back and show you my completed flap, and then we will talk about the zipper pocket and our credit card slots. So I have sewn my flap. As you remember, I sewed it right sides together. I turned it so it's wrong sides together, and then I just top stitched around. My flap is done until the end whenever I install my snap and attach it to the rest of the wallet. So I'm going to set this aside. The next thing I'm going to work on is the zipper pocket. The zipper pocket is going to go on the bottom, and we have 3 pieces to construct this pocket: the bottom, the top, and the zipper. Like I told you, we fold them wrong sides together. If you can see, they're the same, I guess you would say width wise, and so that'll be the same width if you look as your lining exterior pieces. So you can see what's going to happen. This is going to go on the bottom here. The zipper is going to be right there, and then we're going to sew this and then flip it under. So the way we construct this, super easy. I'm going to take the bottom first, and I'm just going to place it to where I have an even amount of zipper tape showing. I like to have about 1/4 of an inch, but you could even go closer if you wanted, but that's just my preference. All I'm going to do then is top stitch all along here 1/8 of an inch away. I'm going to do the same thing with this top piece, and I'm going to lay it right like this so it's going upwards. That folded edge on both of them is what we're stitching on. And I'm going to make sure that I have my zipper tape showing the same amount as I do on the bottom so it looks nice and even and neat. And then I'm going to top stitch right here 1/8 of an inch. So let's do this step first, and then I'll show you how we complete it. My top stitching is done. I have my zipper pull closing this way to the left, and you can see how it looks on the back. Now I'm going to take this folded edge of my top piece, and I'm just going to lay it the exact same way, and you kind of want to make sure that these are in line. Okay, so I'm going to take it back over, do the same thing, have the same amount of zipper tape showing, and even on the sides. This is the front, this is the back. We're simply going to fold this down to where those edges meet, the raw edges meet. Line everything up, and I just finger press. You could take it to the iron if you wanted to. Finger press, and then I'm just going to top stitch all along that edge I just folded down to secure it. I'm going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the edge I just folded. Perfect, perfect. You can open it up, your zipper, if you want, and see that it's a completely finished zipper. All I'm going to do now is trim up the zipper tape off the edges. I'm going to go ahead and clip this to the bottom of my lining panel. And you can see that I don't have any clips. But you can see that's all there is to that. The next thing we'll do is work on this top part, which is our credit card slots. Okay, she gives you the length you cut your credit card slot panel. What you do is you'll mark your top, and then she gives you the list of measurements. I'm not going to give you those. That is included in the pattern. So you'll make one measurement here from your top, the second, third, so on and so forth. She tells you that for your first measurement, you fold your top back so that it is wrong sides together. Then the rest of the pieces you're going to just fold accordion style. For your next line, it'll be right sides together. I always make sure I line up my edges and I use my iron to crease. You continue to do that. And with my credit card slots, whenever I make this wallet, I always have extra. It never fails. I always have extra. So I just cut that off because the way I'm sewing this is I'll be sewing my raw edges right in line with my lining. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my credit card slots over to the sewing machine. I'm going to top stitch each of the tops here. They call them, you know, the peaks or the hills, whichever way you want to call it. I'm going to top stitch each of these. I'm going to top stitch down the middle to separate, and then I'm just going to baste my sides. This will be the completion of your credit card slots. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay. My credit card slots are now finished. And I'm just going to flip them and clip the raw edges together. And I'm going to baste around the lining. And then that's it. It's ready to be put together. That's how quick and easy this is. And you can even test it to make sure, fold it and make sure it feels good when you're folding, that you don't have your credit card slots or your zipper pocket going over too far. And she gives you the measurements for what your credit card slots should measure once you finish folding, so there's not too much confusion there, to make sure you're getting everything accurately. So I'm just going to do a quick baste around everything. Okay, so my interior's done. I'm going to trim off some of the overhang I have, and then we will be ready to simply attach it to our exterior, add our flap and the snaps and our binding, and then we're done. That's how quick this wallet is. Okay, so now I have clipped my exterior and my interior wrong sides together, because remember, we're binding this bag. Now, if you really hate binding, you could probably birth this bag, but you risk getting some bulk around your seams, and I really just feel like you'll love the binding process once you see the technique and learn how easy it is. So we have these clipped together. I took my flap that I finished, and I just I clipped it in the center of this line. You see that line you drew for your credit card slots? I just center it along that. If you if your lining was different sides, you would want to make sure that when you fold it together and you pull the flap over, that you had whichever side you wanted showing oriented the right way. Mine's the same, so it doesn't even matter. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to baste 3 edges. I'm going to leave this open because we still haven't attached our snap yet, but I don't want to attach the snap yet. After I throw these sides, then I'm going to fold it and kind of test it to figure out where I want my snap placement to be. So let's go ahead and baste these 3 sides down. So I've basted. Now I'm going to fold this, and I'm just going to pull my flap forward and see how I want it to sit. I don't want it to be pulling down, so I want to give myself a little bit of room there, but also I don't want it up too high. So I just kind of look, and I really like it about right there. You can see there's a little gap, and that'll be so my binding lays nicely, but this isn't too big of a deal. You're really not going to mess this part up. So what I'll do is I'll show you, I don't usually do this, but since we're doing this as kind of a tutorial, you can clip your sides here. And this is the way I do it. I'm going to look, I'm going to get that, and I think I'm going to put my snap right there in the middle. So let's just draw a little dot there. So I think I want it about right here. I think that looks good. And then I'm going to use, and I'll do this off camera. Well, actually, I think I can do it on camera. I have my little hole puncher right here. So let's go ahead and make a hole there in my flap. Make sure that went through all the layers. Okay. And now I'm going to kind of reposition that the way I like it. And then I'm just going to make a little mark through that hole onto my exterior. And then I will just reach in. I'm not doing my lining. I'm reaching in between them. I'm going to make that hole. And it's not. Okay, I think it cut. I think it cut. Okay, yeah, it did. And so now I will go off camera to do my snaps because I don't have them here. But if you're nervous at all, like if you're using a cotton, you can add a piece of Decaville Light or Pixie Fuse Heavy, whatever you want to do to kind of secure that. I'm not too worried about it because I'm using a vinyl. But anyway, I'm going to just attach my snaps, and then I will go ahead and baste the bottom since I have the snap attached. And we'll come back, we'll do the binding, and then your wallet will be finished. Okay, I have my snaps attached, and I went ahead and basted the bottom. So you can see now the wallet can snap, everything looks good. The last step is to attach the binding. This is where I want to take the most time in this video to really explain how to get a really nice binding on a bag and the easiest way to do it. We have square corners, so we're going to be mitering our corners, which is very easy to do. Because we're not going around any curves, we do not need to worry about cutting our binding on the bias. Nothing like that. It doesn't matter at all. What I typically do, no matter what the pattern says, is that I cut my binding between 1 1/4 to 1 1/2 inches wide. I sew this on single fold. So let's go ahead and show you how that's going to look. I'm going to take this binding piece and I'm just going to fold out under maybe 1/2 inch so that it's wrong sides together. That is going to be how my edges are going to stay finished. I'm going to decide which side of the bag or pouch or wallet matters the most to me. For this one, it's going to be my exterior. I'm always going to be sewing from the side that matters the most to me in this project. So we will start on a side. The reason why I'm starting on the side is because the top is going to be the part that's going to be the most noticed on this wallet. So I am going to start on the side, so if I have any mistakes whenever I'm joining or meeting or matching, they're not going to be as noticed. I'm going to take my binding and put right sides together with my exterior. I'm not going to clip this because when you're sewing it, it may stretch a little and because it's not interfaced. And so I'm just going to start right here, and I'm going to sew the raw edges together, 1/4 inch seam allowance. I will backstitch to make sure I secure that folded edge that I got started. Now I'm going to sew this binding strip till I'm about 1/4 inch away from my first corner. And it doesn't have to be exact, but you do want some room there. So once I get about 1/4 inch away, I'm going to back stitch a couple stitches and go forward a couple stitches to lock that in really good. Then I'm going to break the stitches. Okay, and you can see I have a little bit of overhang here. I'm going to go, that's not for my binding, that's just for me basting the wallet exterior and interior together. I'm just trimming that because it gets on my nerves. That's the only reason. So we have this so far. Okay, what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to show you this a couple different ways. I'm going to hold it up to the camera once I'm done. But I am going to fold this binding wrong sides together. It's going to be a straight line. Let me get my stiletto. It's going to be a straight line right here, and it's going to go back this way. Show you that again. Straight line here. It's going to go back. That's going to create an angle right there that's going to end in my corner. Okay? So let me sit this down, and I'm just going to use a finger press that. So I'm going to sit it down so I can finger press it and get it locked into place there. And then I'm going to pick up this tail, and I'm going to throw it back so that it is, again, right sides together with my exterior. And I'm going to get it to be even and flush with this side again. Okay, so let's just peek. Let me put a clip there so I can show you easily what's going on. We have our stitches that are 1/4 inch seam allowance going down here. We stopped about right here. If we peek this open, you can get a good peek of what's going on. Okay, I want to clarify something that I did not have clear on when I was sewing this. When you'll see me sewing this, we start back to after we attach the binding, we actually start sewing right here at this corner and continue sewing our 1/4 inch. We do not start here and sew over, because if we did that, then we would not be able to open this up and flip it. And then back to my 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way to my next corner. When I get to this corner, I'm going to stop about 1/4 inch away, back stitch, forward, break my stitches again. Same thing. We're pulling it back. And you can see straight line here, and that diagonal edge goes right to my corner. I'm going to lay it down just so I can flatten that out. You can see now my binding is right side up, but I'm going to flip it so that it's right sides together with my exterior again, and that straight edge, I'll just clip it to show you, is once again straight edge there. my next corner. I stopped a 1/4 inch away, back stitch, break my stitches, same thing. Pull it back on itself. The binding is now right side up. I make that straight edge, flip it back. You can see where I have joined 2 pieces of fabric. Just ignore that. You can fold it down and stitch right over it, no problems. 1/4 inch again. I'm down to my last corner. Fold it back on itself, flip it forward. Now I typically wouldn't break my stitches here, but I'm going to just to show you this clearly. We're now at the point where we need to join these. The way I do this is at this point, we're pretty close enough that I know I'm not going to have too much stretching in my binding, and I have plenty of tail left. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come, and I'm not going to cut it right here where it meets exactly. I'm going to cut a little bit further away. So you can see it overlaps there a little. And then what I'm going to do is fold that binding back the exact same way I did in the beginning and get it to where it lines up almost exactly on top of each other. So you're going to have a couple layers, like what, 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of your binding right there. And I'm just going to stitch that down and just go 1/4 inch and go past a little bit and then back stitch there. Now, we have our binding sewn on. So now what we need to do is, if you feel like you have a couple pieces, like right here, I have it a little bit overhang. I want to clean that up just so my binding can lay easily. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip all of these over and just go ahead and get that turning around. Okay, I'm going to come over to the interior. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to, and this is going to be hard to show you, you're going to tuck that raw edge in and pull it down to where it's going to cover your existing stitches. It will just barely cover them. Now at this point, I'm going to speed up the video, but I'm going to put a clip of each of these, and I'm going to come back and show you a couple tips and things. So let me get started with that. Oh, let me show you this. On the corners, when you come to your corner, you will just finagle a little bit. So you'll have this piece going down, and then when you come over here, it'll come in to make that mitered corner. So you'll still fold your raw edges in, but it's hard to do it on camera holding it up and getting it smooth. So I apologize on that. It would be better if I had an overhead view, but have it down like that, and then you'll come over with your other piece to make that perfect mitered corner. And you can put a clip right there at the top if you want to kind of help you. When you do the binding this way, you have a little bit more freedom as to getting everything evenly spaced. Whereas if you do double fold, if it doesn't fit, it's a little more of a struggle there. Okay, so I'm going to do this and come around here. Let me show you one other piece. The piece where it connects, It's just a slight bit bulkier, but it's not hard. You still fold it under the same way and pull it too. And it will fold up exactly to where you can really not even tell the seam there. Okay, so now I'm going to speed this up and clip all around here and get my binding attached and folded over to my interior side, and then I will show you a couple tips to make sure that we have it all even and the best way to sew it on our wallet. Okay, so now we have all of the binding attached. Here's my exterior. You can see it looks great. I've pulled it over and tucked under the ends to the interior side. We are going to sew from the exterior side. So a lot of people don't do that. They sew from this side, and then what happens is the stitches go different places. We're going to sew from this side. I'm going to sew about 1/8 of an inch away from this edge that is attached right here. Now, you might think that's crazy because I'm sewing blind on the other side and I may miss this part that is very pivotal, because if I don't get this stitched, it's going to pop back open. The way I prevent this is 2 ways. First thing I'm going to do is I kind of look down, and at this point now I kind of have it pretty much figured out because I've made so many. But in the beginning, and the way I teach classes on how to do the binding, is you look down this edge and you see if your binding is even on both sides, and you just kind of go through it and glance. You want about 1/4 of an inch to be showing on all sides of your wallet. Okay, and like I can see right here, this one's just coming under a little, so I'm going to tuck that one back in, and I'll put an extra clip there. And that one looks good, but I'll put another clip there. Once I look down all of my sides and in my corners to make sure that everything lines up and looks good, this is the part where you go slow. You want to make sure that you have everything tucked in properly. Then if you're new to this and still uncomfortable, you can take a stick pin and poke it all the way through to see. Let me do it in a spot where I can see it easily. And you just want to poke it through and to see, I don't know if you can see that, but it's coming exactly through the right way. So I know that I am perfectly aligned with this binding. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch from this side all the way around this wallet. When you get to your corners, you want to make sure that you pivot with your needle down so that you catch all your edges. If you lift up your needle when you pivot, you're going to risk missing a corner on this side. This is all I need to do to finish this wallet. So I'm going to go through this and I'll kind of speed it up. I'm actually going to start right here where my 2 edges are joined. I'm going to start a little bit above that so I catch that right away to prevent shifting there, because that is probably my trickiest spot. I do not take my clips out until that last minute, and I don't pull my clips out. I open and remove gently. If I pull them out with them closed, the teeth are going to grab and pull my binding out of the way and like shift my binding. So whenever I do that, I'm going to take a stitch back, and I'm sewing right up against my edge. I have an 1/8 of an inch foot, so it works out perfect. Take your clip and you do it easy. If it's grabbing and you're kind of close, both hands, and get that there. So I use a stiletto, but really I don't need the stiletto. It's just a habit I have. Open, pull. Sometimes I still do miss parts on the interior, even though this is the way I've been sewing this for years now. If I miss something, I will go back and tuck it in and reconnect it and stitch over it. Or if it's just a little teeny spot, I'll even use a little bit of glue and tuck it in with my stiletto on the other side. Okay, are we ready to see if I messed it up or if it worked okay? We can see the exterior looks great. I need to change my needle. I can see my needle holes are a little big, so I need to change that. It's not as sharp as it should be. But when I flip it over, I'm okay with it. It's not perfect. I don't expect it to be perfect. Okay, so here's my wallet. Line it up. Close it up. If you want to set it under a book just so the vinyl, if you're using a vinyl or a cork, folds nicely, you can. But there it is. Thank you so much for watching this video and sewing with me today. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments, and check out the pattern link in the description for this pattern for this wallet. And if you have any suggestions of things I should sew next, just let me know and comment. And thank you so much. I really appreciate it.